Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. RTOs play an important part in the innovation system. Since they are private entities, they are in the intersection between research and innovation and industry. They have teams carrying out in-depth research and innovation, and at the same time they have close connection to the business and the industry community because they are reliant on commercial contracts. However, they are of course also very reliant on all kinds of funding, and naturally EU funding plays an important part for them. To fold out that tension between innovation, funding and commercial elements, I invited Director of Impact Patricia Castillo from the Catalonian RTO, Eurecat. She has years of experience navigating within the RTO world. In this conversation, we dig into how the RTOs are actually working within this very special place of doing innovation and R&D, and at the same time keeping an eye on business development and commercialization. Please enjoy. Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Now, today we're going to talk about RTOs and their place in the whole ecosystem. And RTOs, they've been in the podcast before, but it's an important research organizational structure and model that many of my listeners are working on. So we're going to dig into that, and it's now I've been doing this for more than 4 years now, and when I started this podcast, I started the exercise of reaching out to a lot of people. And today's guest is one of those people that I reached out to, and she wanted to join, but then she got a new work and she could not join me, but suddenly it popped up again, and now Patricia, you're here with me. Fine.
Thank you so much, Niels, for inviting me. I'm so happy to be able finally to join you in the podcast. I've been following you also since you started, but now, this is kind of a dream come true.
Yeah, but I hope I can live up to that. Yeah, but it's wonderful. And we're both 4 years older.
Yeah, wiser, hopefully.
Maybe. Patricia, 2 words about yourself for the listeners.
Yes, I'm Patricia Castillo. I've spent more than 20 years working in research and innovation. Most of my career I have developed within Eurecat, which is a Spanish RTO. And throughout all those years, I have different roles, all connected somehow with European projects and innovation. Basically I've had the chance to see a lot in the European innovation ecosystem from many perspectives, as proposal writer, as project manager, as coordinator, trainer, etc. And I think I want to really sum up the idea that I know there are a lot of challenges, but I'm still a believer. I genuinely believe in the European innovation ecosystem, and I believe that organizations like RTOs, like Eurecat, have a very important role in helping turn knowledge into impact for company, society, and of course, as it sounds a bit, corny, for the future generations.
Yeah. Now it's now you're working in the Spanish RTO, Eurecat, in Catalonia, Barcelona, and there are a lot of RTOs in Spain, so that's what I recognize, and many from this ecosystem will also recognize this, my listeners here, because if you work within this, you have probably many of you working with partners and getting partners to your proposals and projects, so you will know that there are a lot of these stakeholders from Spain within this corner. Now, what we're going to talk about today is to fold out a little bit what it actually is. Yeah, what is this organizational structure, and then the very specific place it holds in between science and market, and how to navigate in that as a research organization. So that's the conversation for today. So let's just break straight into the first block here, understanding the RTO model. So can you fold that out? What is an RTO, Patricia?
Yes, the simple answer is that RTOs are applied research organizations that work closely with the whole ecosystem of agents of innovation, for instance, universities, academia, but also companies, startups, public administrations. We really are in the center of like a bridge between all these stakeholders. Our role is very distinct in the sense that we make technologies move from laboratory to industrial development. And this is kind of a very simplistic way of putting it, but it's the place in the knowledge value chain in which we sit. And of course, we support companies in adopting and scaling innovation. So in a way, we are organizations with a with a public mission, no? Or a mission of public interest that are helping companies and the productive fabric to gain competitiveness and to lead in terms of technology and innovation. Yeah, so that's, again, this is kind of the analogy of the bridge works, but it kind of looks, it kind of lacks nuance in the sense that innovation really is not a simple or linear process, right? So, in which you would expect that researchers in academia or in very basic fundamental research just create the knowledge and spontaneously companies reach and take that knowledge and create something of economic value or social value or whatever. Because the fact is that technology that may very well work in laboratories, but that does not mean that they will work in the real world. So I think this is the key point in which RTOs bring value. We help transform a promising idea or a promising laboratory concept into something that companies can actually use and deploy in the real world. And this means that we help to prove that technology is not only scientifically sound, but that can be manufactured, that can be scalable, that is economically viable, and that is relevant to the market needs. So this is really what is innovation about.
Yeah, but I think also, of course, the basis lies the fact that universities are public organizations, and you're not. You work on market, so sometimes there is funding coming from public sources to RTOs. In the Danish case, there is the ones I know, that there is there can be some models of where some money is floating, but often you are to the open market and to grants, funded funding sources,
That's a specificity of, at least that I know, Spanish RTOs, right? Mm-hmm. Within Spain, the RTOs, we are private non-profit. So we have this kind of duality. We live in this very complicated interspace, right? So the biggest or the most traditional RTOs that we know of, for instance, Fraunhofer in Germany, or VTT and RISE, these are public, and these are public organizations and are national, supported by the member state, right? In Spain, we are private non-profit, and this is how we are regulated. And we oftentimes come from a regional impulse rather than member state, like Spanish public administration, and we have very little or limited baseline support. So So this has challenges and this has opportunities. I think we have a very strong ecosystem of RTOs in Spain. There are recently a couple of studies that have been published that demonstrate the impact that we have generated. But of course, the limited baseline funding creates some tensions between exactly what you say, right?
Yeah, but there are many the differences in structure and framework. So for Germans, for instance, they have built after the war. They built a model of public-private approach, where you have the government going in and you have the private going in, and that's for many different things in their societies: health insurance, research, and so on and so forth. There are many different elements there. For Spain, it's a different history. It's a different institutional structure. It's a different framework. Yeah. So here, it probably comes from a scarcity. I don't know, where you would have. It was a country that didn't have so much money. Yeah. Only recently, the country, historically speaking, recently have been lifting up, and where you would say the government has less, steps less in, where it's let's make a system where you, on these conditions, you need to work within that frame.
I would find it difficult to pinpoint exactly why we have this model right now in Spain. I think what is interesting is that it's not the same thing for science or for academic. No one would ever question in Spain that we need to defund universities, or that they are not relevant, or that they are not providing excellent science. I think it's historically or traditionally, the what is considered scientific research has been, I'm not going to say properly funded, because funding is always necessary, but has been consistently funded and has been promoted and is regulated. And we have these structures that allow for funding of not only universities, but also research centers, which are mostly public and, have this very excellent science drive. But on the other hand, what it's called in Spain, innovación empresarial, which is innovation for companies, which are, the public programs that support companies to innovate, and the RTOs are an instrument for helping companies to innovate, are really, really comparatively less funded that the excellence side. So in somehow we do reflect this unbalance that we also carry in Europe, as has been signaled by several important reports recently, like the Draghi report, etc. That we are, as Europe, we are a nation, Europe, a continent, of course, but in Spain, we do have excellent science, and we are productive in excellent science, but we are lacking in that second part, that is transforming that knowledge into economic value, social value, environment. Yeah.
And getting, and you have all RTOs, and that goes for all, right? They have a much, much stronger connection to the industry, the growth layer of SMEs, startups, and also the larger part of the industry, right? And that, so, which also means that is sort of your place in the system, right? In the innovation system or research system, right? You play that important, vital binding, the investigative research innovation, dig into the innovation research part, together with the actual companies, the technology developers out there that need the capacity of the research innovation part from professionals that are like researchers in that corner.
Yeah. So that's a very important point, because we are not top down created by a national authority, but rather most of the centers are organically created from the local or regional ecosystem. So take Eurecat for an example. Eurecat was founded in 2015 as a result of a merger. There were 5 other, and then others, merged too. 5 technology centers that were very localized in different regions in Catalonia and were working in research, in applied research in the domain, specialization domain of the industry around it. So we had one venue or one of the sites is very specialized in manufacturing industries, while the other was very close to textile companies, etc., etc., etc. So when we merged together, we still have 11 different sites within Catalonia only, and all of these sites kind of keep this specialization, with the difference that now we can share and we create value amongst the different, knowledge of technologies, different domains, different sectors. So this is very important, the sense that we are very, very well knit with the industrial ecosystem at a very local and a very regional way.
Let's bridge it into the next one, because now we're going to talk the Spanish context, but we already started that, right?
Yeah.
No, that's fine. It's difficult sometimes to keep things apart when you make these run-offs. Now, you are impact manager.
Yes.
Yeah. So you are responsible for, you know what, this morning I just recorded the podcast on impact.
Oh, really?
I'm right in the mode with a guy from TU Delft. Now, impact manager means that you need to make sure that the work you do in Eurecat is something that has an impact in real life. I guess that's the direct translation, right? The activities you have is something that where you, as a RTO, as an organization, can bring things into the real world.
Yeah, that's the headline. And I'm already getting excited about the conversation. I have so many ideas. I've been, this is a position that was recently created. This was January 2026. I was appointed as head of impact, or whatever you translate the position. But the fact is that I've been working on impact for the 20 years, right? Since my work as a proposal and grant writer and project coordinator, etc. The difference I think I have now is that I am looking beyond the projects. I am looking on to the organization as a whole. So basically, how do we increase the chances that our activities create value for companies and society? And I've seen this is a recent trend. There's been, popping out a lot of new impact managers in different organizations. And I think this comes with the pressure of the overall policy discussion and the overall shift towards competitiveness and all this that is happening now, discussions even on the next framework program. We need to make sure, I think, as organizations, that that we are intentional on the impact. And I want to, because impact happens whether you monitor it or not. And the thing with impact is that it can be positive or negative. It could be intentional or not intentional. So, and then on the other hand, you have innovation. That innovation does not happen by accident either. So you really have to be intentional with that. And finally, and I think this is what kind of lives in my head constantly, right? And I'm keeping thinking on it, is that technology is not automatically positive or beneficial, right? It's not neutral,
no,
and it is not positive for the part. So we, as an RTO, we do have the responsibility to make sure that whatever we put out there in the world, it's at least has been thought from the perspective of the potential negative impacts that you could cause to people, to society, to the environment. So basically the role is to try and make sure that we are all pulling in the same direction, and that we, with intention, with direction, and with clarity, we are increasing the likelihood that our results and our activity have a positive impact.
Now, we're going to, so we have 3 sections here. We're going to talk about Spanish context. We're going to dig a little bit more into that. Then we have living with the challenge, where we dig into exactly what you're talking about here. And then you wrote a book. And that's we're going to cover that as well. So let's just first put the baseline here, the framework that you work within. So first and foremost, we already touched it a little bit. How does your organization exist? Yeah, the funding. So how, spell it out. So how are Spanish RTOs funded? How do you make the basis for carrying out your activities? Because that's a key issue, right? Because you
that's the key issue, literally. As I said before, Spanish model is quite distinctive. We are all in Spain RTOs and legally considered as such. We are private non-profit organizations, and this alone sets kind of the way of how we relate to public funding. So the majority of us of RTOs in Spain have a mix of industry contracts and a highly competitive public funding, both national, regional, or of course European. We have limited baseline support from public administrations.
So you have something.
But it's not consistent across the RTOs, and it depends pretty much. The problem is that it's not consistent. It's not pluriannual. It's not something that you can rely in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's
very regionally
cyclical.
Based, or is it nationally based? Is it depending?
No, it's I don't think I can speak for everyone, but at least in Eurecat, it's regionally based.
Okay.
But you cannot count on it really from year to year. You really have to, it's not all there, right? So that means that we have to earn large part of the income, and whether it is industry contracts providing services, etc., or in competitive public funding.
We're going to get back to that in a second. Just one thing that we discussed when we had the pre-meeting, because I know from Denmark, the RTOs in Denmark, they part of their I wouldn't say lucrative income, but sort of steady income is they are certified research organizations that each of them covers a specific area: bio, agro corner, energy corner, drones, and so on. And then as a company, if you need to certify a technology, you need to go to that specific place and certify the technology. They test it, and that you pay for. So that's naturally, it's a steady income, because you always have companies that are obliged to test to CE standards, the things that needs to be tested. Do you have a similar model in Spain?
In Catalonia, we have some sort of recognition, in the sense that there is a list of organizations to which companies can, at least curated by the regional administration for companies to go and discuss innovation and potential collaborations. Mm-hmm. However, this is not really like a vetted or a structured way of generating this, as you mentioned it, right? Like a certification, like you have to. We are not gatekeeping that.
Okay.
So it's not. So it helps.
So, in other words, you have to run up and business develop yourself your own contacts with the industry, unless they come to you. Yeah. of course, also happens, I guess. But in principle, you need to have a business development department.
Yeah.
And then vis-a-vis this podcast, you also need a competitive funding department. People that sit and write competitive proposals, because it's vital for the basis for your organization.
Absolutely. And we have both. And we have a very strong business development department. And we have a very solid team of EU grant coordinators and writers. I was leading that team for about 5 years. And it's an amazing team. And we also have very professionalized this team that is strategic, that makes decisions towards which topics to go, etc. And then we have the administrative teams and the justification teams that all make it together. And this is a way of the organization to support researchers, so that researchers don't need to be like playing 6 roles at the same time, but they have these counterparts.
It's also, my best guess is that you also have a strong capacities on coordinating large Horizon Europe projects.
Yes. Yeah. And the latest, most amazing demonstration of that is that we, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we kicked off the largest robotics project ever. It's called GRAIL. I don't recall exactly the call, but it's the foundational AI and models for robotic in industry. Mm-hmm. And this is coordinated by Eurecat. It's a huge project, massive. We'll have open calls, and hopefully it will be a great success.
I really think you should consider having podcasting in connection with that project.
No pressure. I already passed them your contact.
No,
I already did.
Just joking. Now, what the tension in this episode is, of course, this, right? That you are reliant on getting things through. Yeah. And maybe we should just step into the next section on how to living with that challenge, because it's going to be the beating heart of this conversation. How do you handle that as an RTO? How do you handle that as professional? How do you handle that? And I'm not just talking about you as a funding professional, because that's you know how to handle the funding schemes, you know how to navigate, how to find calls, how to find partners. What is very, very distinctive in this case for research organizations, you have research teams. And you have research teams with people who are researchers, just like in a university. They sit and have a specific area of their research area that they've been probably doing all their career. And they're not funding professionals, but they live and work in an organization where they are reliant on the wonderful colleagues from your corner to make sure that they can continue that work, because it's very simple. It spells out the harsh realities. If funding is not carried home within a specific research field and you don't have any other sources, then it cannot continue that specific research in that corner. It's very simple. And that's obviously the challenge that because I know, because I've been running into this in my career, that this is the harsh reality for some corners in this kind of organization. Now, how do you live with this?
Yes. Well, we live. We thrive.
It's a professional. It's also a way of having a professional life, yes. Right? It's an organization that is living with this challenge and handles it. So let's dig into this, Patricia.
Yes. So I think we can frame it. There's a thing conceptually, right, around the model. Mm-hmm. The tension in an RTO, in a Spanish RTO or Eurecat concretely, is that you have to be, the RTOs work at two velocities, right? You have to be up to date so that you are ready for the demand. So when You have companies coming to you because they want to go into the carbonization. You have to be ready to cover that and to help them find a solution, right? So you are in one side close to market demand, not market availability, but able to respond to the challenges that companies have today.
Mm-hmm.
But you, in order to get there, you need to have have long sight, and you have to be able to invest in capacities, so that when market demand comes, you're ready for that. So that's the that's the part that really creates the tension. It's the sustainability of the capacity that you build, so that when market demands are right, you're ready. So we are thinking right now, we are in Eurecat right now, we are doing great investments in technological infrastructure, for instance, for quantum computing.
Yeah.
Because we are looking ahead at our facilities when they are inaugurated and they are working, will not be to explore the frontiers of quantum technology. Will be to try to find use cases and how these technologies will be able to help companies to achieve competitiveness. So it's a different framework from other kind of academic or research centers. This is the main problem of it's a balancing act, right? How to be ready, how to invest long term with risk, in 5-10 years, to be prepared for when market demands these technologies. And market, I mean the companies solving real company problems.
Very difficult, Patricia, because it's quantum computing. It's not going to be commercial exactly like that, maybe even longer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you have other departments, or what you're going to say, that needs to carry.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's a balancing act. So you are working. We have been working with AI since the times since it was since the times of big data, right? Yeah. And now the company we have the market demand from companies. We are prepared for that. Now we have to do the same for quantum, and we have to do the same for cognitive robotics, and we have to do the same for biotechnology and all other topics that we manage. So this is real. It's not so much of how do we manage to fund our projects or our teams. Is how do we manage to fund sustainably the vision that we have, so that we are ready to support the companies when they need it. That is a tension. On the other hand, because I am utterly optimistic, is that there is a bright side to this. I think we can say that the Spanish model has made us, has forged us to be very entrepreneurial organizations that are agile, that can make business decisions quickly, that have, we are agile, we can work with different providers where the procurement is not a pain, etc. So I think we have cultivated this spirit of proximity, also being able to be reactive and quickly adapt to changes, which I think it might be harder for other type of organizations.
Well, naturally, universities, if you have secured a block funding, the universities are social culture. Yeah, they're covering history and psychology. Corners that it's different. Yeah. So of course you have technical universities that are within your corner, but it's just it's where you are. It's just a constant interaction with the surrounding world, and the relevant stakeholders in the surrounding world, to make sure that you don't miss the target. Because if you miss the target and go down a wrong path, there's no funding to save you. Yeah,
exactly.
there's no stream of government related flow of. They will say, okay, that was that didn't work, or whatever. You can't allow too much of that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, but on the other side, you have, well, you kind of try to build this virtuous circle in which whatever income or the income that you get from patents, from licensed technology, this gets reinvested into that kind of internal research for creating capacity, etc. So it's a difficult model. There are tensions. There's not. I would like to think that the public administrations would like to invest more in the RTOs, but things happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not an easy model but yeah, we are working in it, and actually we are, I'm not going to say thriving, but it's working somehow. So there should be demonstration, there should be evidence that RTOs are a good investment in the sense of the return they give to the innovation ecosystem.
Yeah. I think the biggest tension in your day-to-day work, this is this balancing the market logic with the public interest, balancing research and research teams' integrity and their focus with the fact that you need contracts with industry. It's not just collaboration with industry, it's contracts with industry. So and no matter how you want to look at this, there's a difference between sitting in a university in a research team, and you don't have to worry about what anybody says. You can just do the research. And here you have to be aware of, there's a client customer relationship. There's a buyer-seller relationship, and probably some of your research colleagues, they hate this.
You think so? Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of everything, but I'm gonna say that I think most of researchers that work in a technology center kind of like the link and the collaboration with industry. And I'm going to put you two very recent examples. I was last week in a meeting, and we had this. It was a corporate meeting, and the team of robotics, which has a line in agricultural robotics, the head of that unit was telling us that one out of every 3 business days, the researchers are in the field working with the robots and working with the actual things. So it's looking not in a conceptual, but understanding how it works. And the other example, it also came up in the same meeting. Industrial decarbonization. Okay, so people usually think that this is about technology, it's about a process, and then you need people that knows about energy and chemistry, and very, very technical, very technological. So we are now working in a project that is about that we have designed and are building pilot plants to create e-fuels out of green hydrogen. And we have the researchers now, they are working on site with the construction people and, and the industrial partner and the site manager to make this come alive, the designs that they have made to test limits of these technologies. And they are working with things that they will never find in a scientific papers, like the construction needs, the operational challenges, cost, supply, all these things that are there, and that I'm going to take the risk and say that they looked very happy in the pictures.
No, you know what? The thing here is naturally, and I'm sure that you have some corners where some of some of them, they would prefer to be in university. But the matter of fact is that if you apply for a position in a research team in an RTO, then you're also yourself aware of the fact that that's what you like to do as a researcher, right? To have a connection with the surrounding world. So naturally, if you don't like to go for university tenures, whatever.
Of course, there's tensions. Sometimes there are tensions in, between what I would like to research and what is the challenge that a company is putting me that maybe it's not so interesting, but it's what keeps money coming. So this is, of course, I'm not naive. I know that this happens, and maybe there are some people more happy than others at working with industry. But I would not see. I mean, I cannot see that as a pain, in the sense that this is the intrinsic role of the RTOs. It's working with the industry to make this come to fruition. So I wouldn't expect less that.
So this is so let's just establish that the majority of your employees, naturally, they feel very comfortable with having an interaction with the industry because it's important for what they do. That's and from the other side of the coin, I know very well from the university world, some of my close contacts there, that they are annoyed that they can't get enough contact with the industry and the SMEs. Yeah, it's a. I've been studying innovation myself when I was a university student, and this is the classic cleavage: is the cleavage between industry and academia, right? So, and here you have it. Yeah. In a natural way. Is there anything else in relation to the challenges here that you want to share? Is there
yes
internally or in the team you sit in, what you struggle? Because here, okay, naturally, from the funding point of view, it's a funding podcast. We need to fold that out. So naturally, for you, it's a problem that success rates are dropping.
Yeah.
It's not just a problem, it's a big problem.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. It's happening for everyone.
Yeah.
In Spanish we have a say that when everybody is in the same bad position, then we get some consolation from that. But this is happening, but not only in Europe, and not only but also in regional and national funds. I mean, we could spend hours discussing the reasons why this is happening, but in my very personal opinion, which is also based on experience, I think this is cyclical. I have seen this happen when the framework program reaches maturity, right? When everybody is now better at putting proposals that they kind of manage and have a domain of the language and how it works, the template, etc., etc., etc. I saw this from FP7 to Horizon 2020 and Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe. We have the added complication of AI, generative AI, which that's another topic. But I think it's cyclical. And I think that I trust that when you have a mature organizations in EU funded that have professionalized services, like we have in Eurecat to work the grants, then what happens is that when the new program unfolds, we raise the success ratios, because we have time to prepare, because we know how to prepare, because we have seen this cyclically.
I know that the arrival of AI in proposal writing is disrupting everything. And that corner, it's something that's a condition for everybody. Yeah. No matter what, it's Erasmus, it's everywhere. Yeah.
It's everywhere.
So, and my best guess is that you, because you are very experienced, my best guess is that you sort of have a strategy to try to find a way through that new scenario.
Yeah, the problem with generative AI, really, I think it's not so. It's the problem is oversubscription. right? So there's a lot of the number of proposals that are submitted to calls are high, in record highs, and this means that the agencies of the commission need to hire more expert evaluators. So this, increasing the pool of evaluators also kind of raises uncertainties, because you bring in people that are not as experienced evaluating, etc. And it kind of tensions it also tensions the amount of proposals that each panel receives, which and it burdens, it creates a huge burden. I am not leading that team right now at Eurecat, so I really don't really want to get into the strategies that they carry out. But I do think that, and this is something that I teach when I teach courses on EU grant funding. In a scenario in which proposals are equally good or equally excellent in science, the other sections, the competitive advantage of the proposals are those other sections that researchers think, oh, this is just like policy, these are the things that everybody tells me to pay attention, but I like, dissemination, impact, gender perspective, etc. And these sections are typically the ones that we subcontract to the ChatGPT. And you can spot them a mile away. When you are evaluating proposals, you can see a mile far when you have a section written by AI without zero criteria and zero true knowledge behind it. So I think those are the keys for competitive advantage, assuming that you are in a very proficient way, in a very proficient position in terms of science and excellence of the scientific part.
But it's indeed it's a whole topic. It's a full podcast episode, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and
I talk a lot about it in this podcast. I on a regular basis discuss this. Just recently had a therapy session with Erasmus Plus people that were devastating from the last results in that corner. It's and it's exactly this: the frustration over quality of proposals being lowered, and then the success rate at the same time dropping like this. So you feel that you put you put so much work and effort into this, and it's just not. This is danger. This is the danger, right? It's also the danger in your corner. Is it worth going for EU funding? Should we focus on regional or Spanish fund? Because it's. But of course, you will go for EU funding because it's a lot of money. Yeah. But it's the problem from funding professionals' point of view. Where is the breaking point?
Yeah. Well, for researchers as well, the moment that you start spending more resources doing the writing of the grants, and then those resources if you would just start it to your research and complete it with that funds, and you have a problem. So, but from a I often collaborate as evaluator, and I can tell you that the past 6 months I've been in a couple of panels in which evaluators are now reacting viscerally against AI generated.
Yeah. I also had some of them in. They don't like.
There's a fatigue because what you can tell is that it's maybe better written, like in English, but then there's nothing behind, and we are getting very exhausted about it. And if you think it through, evaluators are paid with public money. And are being paid with our money to entertain proposals that are made by
a machine,
a bot, and it's so. I mean, it's really disheartening.
All right. I think let's move into the next block here, something more positive.
Yeah.
Patricia, you wrote a book, and
Yes.
you mentioned it in the meeting, and it's a book in Spanish, so it's not for everybody. But I said, look, of course we will touch upon the book, because I always support these kind of things. I've had other books in for the podcast to share this, because that, and you know why? Because I love passion when I see it, for this area. And if you write a book, you're damn passionate about this. So Patricia, what is that book about?
So I wrote a book, and you're if this does not speak about passion, I don't know what. I wrote this book. This is a book about managing and EU grants, or publicly funded grants. All the process, all this life cycle since the proposal writing to the coordination of project. Of course, it's very biased towards the framework program, because this is my home turf. But I did this in Spanish. I'm sure if I would put it in English, it would be, a larger market. But I wanted to do it in Spanish because I wanted to be frictionless, because I wrote it during my summer vacations last year. So it was
happy holidays.
Yeah, exactly. But I absolutely enjoy myself. You cannot imagine. I did it. So I wanted to be frictionless, and I wanted also to carry my own voice. English is my second language, is my professional language. I was afraid that if I started by English, then, it would create a distance. So I really wanted to be my authentic self, because it's a book about this tacit knowledge, the experience. It's not about the rules. It's not about, these things that you find in the grant agreement model. It's about whatever happens around it. And it is a passion, because I've done this so many years, and I really am a believer, as I said already. But on the other thing, I just feel I love teaching. I love communicating and transferring knowledge. And I felt that when I was younger and I started with the EU projects, I wish somebody could have, like by osmosis, transferred to me all these things, or at least explain things that you can only learn by failing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the point of it. Not just to it's a walk through the whole process from an experiential point, but I was also thinking on how fragmented our profession is. So again, you have the grant writers, you have the project managers, you have the researchers, you have the people specializing justifications, and they all need to know how everything works. And seldom happens that you have someone in justifications, with the invoices, that really knows what happens in grant writing.
Yeah.
And I would say that half of the project implementation problems happen because the grant writer has never managed a project. So that kind of thing. So I was hoping to make it easier for everyone to have a peek on it. On the responsibilities.
It's a nice mirror of what is going on, your decision to write that book, because I've been covering the research management corner for quite a while, actually, for the majority of this podcast running time. I think for the last 3 years, I've been having, even earlier, maybe even from very early on, had research managers on the show, explaining about the profession. And now I have a contract with the IRM Framework project, which is the research management training, developing standardized training courses for research managers. They are a client of mine, so I produce podcast episodes for them for that project. So I have a lot of these things going on, and what it is. With that profession, research management, it is an unrecognized profession that is gaining recognition, right? And the Commission has, of course, helped with that because it's in their own interest to have good research managers in the universities and the RTOs throughout the continent to administer and make sure that the EU public funding is better administered and so on. But it's exactly this. And all of the conversations I have with research managers like you, it is a translating role. So exactly this, what you say here, that the universities have always been approaching EU funding as long as it has been there, but the issues and bottlenecks and challenges and mess that often comes out of an implemented project as a result, if it has not been coordinated properly, the proposal phase is exactly what you say here, that the one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. And that is the research manager's role, constant translating between the system and the researcher, and internally on the organization between the accountant, the managers, the research team, the juniors, and so on and so forth. Yeah?
Yeah, and I think it's also this role is so important in the sense of breaking some narratives that are not working or that are hindering actual innovation. For instance, when I teach, normally they say, "No, I don't like European projects because there's so much bureaucracy or whatever." You say, "Look, they're going to give you 5 million euros of my money and your money. You better have. This is out of question." Of course, you need to report, and of course, you need to show that you're doing what you're doing. No, yeah, but I spend my day writing deliverables. Who put those deliverables there? It was not the commission. It was not the project officer. It was not the evaluator. You, the grant writer, put those deliverables there. So it's some of those issues are self-inflicted, if you ask me.
But it's also a matter of perception, Patricia, because this is no matter what you do, what kind of organization. We all KPIs. You have to write a report to your managers after if you did a big event, or even like this. You always have. You need to have accountability. You need to make sure that, and you're being checked. And this is just the commissions we're checking it. So it's very simple. As soon as you learn, okay, this is the frame of an EU project. That's it. The best organizations that works with this and thrive under this is where they just take it. This is the system. Now we teach internally our accountants, our researchers, that this is how it works. Then they learn that, and that's it. Nobody's complaining anymore.
Well, all of my teaching career for a colleague like that started like this. Like, we need to train internally because this is going to make our lives better. It's going to be the process of writing the proposals and coordinating the projects will be hopefully more seamless, and we at least will be talking on the same language and be on the same page, and then it's escalated. But absolutely, I think the role of research managers is very much important because if you can win the grant. You can have a solid concept, a solid implementation, but a project can derail very easily in 3-4 years if they are not in place the mechanisms and a solid coordinator behind.
And this idea of tacit knowledge, also the hidden. So I actually made a podcast episode with her. She's also from Spain, but she works in RISE in Sweden. Isabel Bodal?
Yes, of course, I know her. Yeah,
she's wonderful. We did a podcast episode simply labeled "The Hidden Work." So of research managers, what nobody sees.
Yeah. What people don't see, and even research managers don't see. We work in a field especially if you do this full time, right? We are working in a field in which take the success rates, maybe 10 out of maybe only 2 or 1 out of 10 things that you have devoted your hours, your weekends, your family time do not succeed. So you have to be very resilient. You have to be very, very strong, and you have to have the capacity to mourn and to grieve that not successful applications, and start again and regenerate and learn from that. So that takes a very special kind of people to do, and they have to take care of themselves.
I hated that. As a grants consultant, I hated it. I hated being absolutely, working 12, 14 hours a day, long periods, and just, like, knowing already in that horrible work, because I didn't like it, and it was not for me, and I still had to do it, right? And knowing that it would probably not be fun. Was I was already grieving before it was submitted, so to say. Yeah, and then you receive it, and you just have to pick yourself up and continue with that, because a grants consultancy, then it's a client. Yeah, so you need to work with the next client. No, it's much more fun to do podcast.
Yeah, I have to say, maybe I'm just addicted to adrenaline. I don't know. I really love the proposal writing. I spent many years, and this was like, I sometimes, I woke up at 5 a.m. so that I had like 3 hours of silence so that I could work, and I really lived it with a passion. On the other hand, the project coordination, find it very, very less challenging. So.
But then you're natural born proposal writer,
Absolutely, and they are natural born project coordinators, which are very structured, that are very attached to the procedures that they can and that work, and that you have to be very aware as well.
You should see my office here.
Yeah.
Patricia, thanks for sharing about the book. What I'm going to talk for you listeners, so that would be for Spanish listeners, so there will probably be a handful of Spanish listeners seeing that Patricia is on, because people know you have a strong network of people from here, right? Mm-hmm. So I will put a link to the book.
Super.
So sharing that with the community here. Some reflections and advice, maybe. Do you have, what have you jotted down? For other RTOs, for people in your corner?
I think I want to connect both things, right? So, so we kind of established, right, that the tension in the RTOs is sustainability of the long-term capacity of generating the future. Right. So it's knowledge, it's infrastructure, it's investing, but it's also investing in people. When I put this example of these researchers that are now working in the construction site, and this experience, this knowledge that he's gaining inside, in that, just for being there and discussing safety concerns and discussing how you build this and where are you going to place whatever reactor there, etc. This tacit knowledge, it's in his head. So we have to find the ways as organizations to make this explicit. So how to do it? I do not have the solution right now, but I think part of the sustainability of the RTO system is making explicit this kind of tacit knowledge that our people have, that our people gain for this specific kind of work that they are doing, the experience they are, the experience with industry, collaborations, etc., so that we can pass it on. Pass it on internally and also through the ecosystem, because of course we cannot do this alone. So I think that would be my final reflection.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving to the toughest challenge. The grand toughest challenge as RTO, to create a sustainable model, including strong R&D and income to support the organization. What is it, Patricia? What is the roughest nut to crack?
Yeah, I think again, it's the sustainability of the not of the organization in a sense of needing the funds, but the sustainability of these 2-tier kind of activity in which you are close to market and already thinking ahead 10 years. So capabilities are built over years. Talent takes years to develop. The trust with the companies takes years to build. You mentioned earlier that, this gap between universities and companies, you need to speak the same languages. You need to understand where they are coming from. There are so many things in there. And our researchers, for instance, capture that. But yeah, so we need to transfer that as well, right? This is a knowledge, an implicit knowledge that, So basically, I think if we want to boil it down, is that we need to stop thinking, or in general, the administration needs to stop thinking in terms of project by project. We need to start thinking on a long-term vision of what do we think is a bet? What do we think the future will look like in 10 years, so that we are prepared for that?
This is an art. It's an art to be able to have a workforce in an RTO that knows how to communicate with companies, but it also requires, it's a two-way street, right? So it's an art to develop the relationship with the company so they understand your world and where you come from. So this is good collaboration partners in your corner when you have to bridge just stepping over that cleavage. That is an art if you as an organization can fertilize that in a strong way. It is because there's always going to be skepticism on both sides of that of that canyon. There's always going to be we need to talk to a researcher now. and they're only thinking about earning their money there. It's to having that going into an active collaboration on understanding each other and walking hand in hand in solving the challenges where you on both sides of that canyon can see a thriving collaboration in it and interest, because it's interest.
Absolutely. It's also about understanding that we are in a risky business, in the sense that we cannot eliminate the risk of maybe a technology that is not working, but that when you build confidence and you build trust with the industry, that risk becomes bearable. And when you as an RTO have these infrastructures that helps with experimented, have researchers that can talk with business, etc., this all it's more bearable and more prone to produce successful innovation.
On that note, thanks for joining me, Patricia. Now, I'm just going to say goodbye. I'm just going to land this plane before we say goodbye to the listeners. So, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end of this. Now, this is the time-space issue. This is my second podcast recording today, so it's been two wonderful conversations about impact. So this is just great for me and my corner, I must say. Now, thanks for listening to this. There's lots of impact. If you go to my website, thegrant.eu, and go to podcast content, you'll find lots of podcast content. I have more than 230 episodes now, and there is a lot on impact. So, and there's a lot about research management. There are also other RTO episodes and so on. So go in and scroll through and see if there's something of your interest there. Now, when you're there and you think, wow, this is a fantastic platform, how do I support this guy? You can do that very simply by filling in the online form to join my email list. This is the best way to support an independent podcaster like myself. Finally, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm the only guy in the world with this name, Niels Todder-Winther. You can find me. That's where the fun happens. That's where the flow is. That's where I pick up my guests. most of them at least. And that's also where I have the grant page. So you can go and follow that. The community is building. I have more than 500 followers now. So there's a lot of things coming out from my side, promotion, graphic videos, and so on and so forth. You won't be disappointed. Patricia, thank you so much. Now, I truly hope that it's not going to be the last time.
I'm happy to join.
I'd love to come and visit you in Barcelona. We live in the same country. Estepona is a bit far, but I'd love to come by your research organization and visit you there. But we'll see what happens with that. We'll take it from there.
Yeah, we will take it from there. I would love to meet you in person, and I'm happy to be here. I love to talk about all these topics that I'm so passionate about. So I'm always open for your invitation.
Always open. Now let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Bye, Niels.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You'll find the link to the episode site where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to Patricia's LinkedIn site. Further, you'll find links to Eurecat and to Patricia's guidance book for research managers mentioned in the episode. The book is in Spanish. Next week, I will zoom in on an Albanian university and how they are navigating the EU funding schemes as an entity from an associated country. You can indeed look forward to that.